All right, well, we're still having a wonderful day out here at the Lummis house, and today I have the great opportunity of speaking with two brewmeisters. One a member of the Master Food Preserver program, Jake, who is a home brewer, and Brian, who is a professional brewmaster and is here to give us two perspectives on things. We're of course looking at how can people do this really at home. So maybe Jake, could you talk a little bit about how you got into it and what you have here today?
Well, I got into it like a lot of other people in college. I was trying to give myself lots of beer very cheaply. I found out that the hobby usually isn't all that inexpensive, but it is fairly easy if you have some basic equipment. Today I brought a 1-gallon jug with me. That's really all you need to get started. That and a couple of pots, and basically it's going to boil down to getting some grains or some other kind of fermentable sugar. You can start with molasses or brown sugar, creating a sweet liquid, simmering it with some hops for about an hour, and then pitching some yeast and waiting a couple of weeks.
Really?
Yeah.
That's all there is. Geez, just all this magic I've seen. So let me shift over. So what makes one the beer that I'm ready to just travel to Belgium for?
Well, it's years and years of practice. It's also, you enter it and win a lot of awards, and you develop a technique. Every brewer has a specific style, and once you get to that style, then you build your audience from there, and people just, can't get enough.
Can you talk? I know we've got all of the component pieces out here. Can you talk us through what pieces of the puzzle we have?
Well, these are your basic hops, and that's what you start with. You can do two styles of brewing. You can do all grain brewing, or you can do an extract, or you can do an extract with a mash infusion where you use like a sock to put it in the beer when you're making it. And then these are your hops right here, where you can basically, hops are a preservative for beer and cause that aromatic flavor or bitterness flavor depending on the styles of beer you're making. And the yeast here is what's used at the end of the whole thing. When you chill it down to like 70 degrees, you can pitch your yeast, and yeast actually add a very distinctive flavor like you're talking about with Belgian beers. It's the yeast really is what you're tasting.
And that's what kicks off the final fermentation?
Yeah, that's what begins the fermentation, and then you have once it does its fermentation after like 7 to 10 days, maybe 14 days, then you transfer it into the secondary. That's where it drops out, and if any fermentables are still left, then it starts fermenting again, and then from there you usually rack it over, carbonate it, and maybe in a month or so you can drink it, kind of thing.
Okay. And Jake, so now what style beer maker are you gravitating towards?
Which styles of beer do
you like making?
I'm really a big fan of beers that have a lot of roasted character, so I really like porters, I like stouts. When it comes to maybe making something a little bit more dry tasting, I kind of tend towards like a pale ale or an IPA, something that has like some real crisp hop character to it. But I think also beer can be a very seasonal thing. So the beer that I want to make and drink in the summer isn't necessarily the one that I want to drink in the winter.
Yeah, my friend who's the most knowledgeable beer drinker, so what is the best? And he's like, it depends. And he had this whole list of criteria as to why it was great one way or another. What are the difference in hops?
Hops come in several varieties. There are hops that sort of are associated with European styles versus hops that are associated with more American or North American styles. The American ones tend to be more citrusy in character, whereas the European ones will tend to be more earthy, more tea-like. And it also and aside from flavor and character, they also range in terms of what we call the alpha acid content. Alpha acids are these sort of chemical components of the hops that create the bitterness in the beer. And each season when they grow hops, they actually rate it for its alpha acid content as a percentage, and it's packaged as such. So as brewers, we know what we're getting into, and we can sort of decipher how much bitterness we're putting in the beer, as well as the flavor and the aroma that we're adding.
So it's both the quantity of the hops and the intensity of the hops.
Yes, exactly. So it's all about managing.
That defines the styles, particularly like European, English beers. You got your heavier, and then say you have an IPA, you can dry hop it, which even gives it that much more pungent, flavors.
I'd never heard that hops were a preservative, and it's interesting because I know that IPAs, had the big hops to get.
Hops are actually a new thing for brewing. Yeah. We've only been using them probably for 300-400 years. For I would say for a long time. I don't want to put a number on it. For a long time, they didn't use hops at all, and they found out probably, I would say, about 500 years ago that then started using hops.
Those alpha acids, those same acids are sort of acting as, like as you said, as a preservative, and a lot of those discoveries came about when European nations were exploring the world and needing to come up with ways to preserve their beer longer to get them farther.
That's how the IPA evolved.
Right, that's what I heard, that it was just to get the beer to India, you just dump the hops in and
load it with hops.
And now we all love our IPAs coming out of the back room.
What happened was that they were going and colonizing India. They brought some beer over. The ship sank. All the soldiers went out and got the beer out of there. Ended up drinking it and said, "Hey, man, this is good stuff." That's how that whole thing started.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, I noticed we're keeping the hordes away because you do have free beer samples today, so I know you're going to end up the most popular one here. So thanks so much for your time, and best luck with everything.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Stay thirsty.